Hi, my name is Jason Peacock. I'm an admissions officer at the University of North Texas. I serve as the admissions rep for Northwest ISD, and I also work with NCTC students that are transferring to North Texas. I've been asked to talk a little bit about preparing to be a successful transfer to a four-year institution. So hopefully, some of these recommendations may help you in your journey towards your college education. So, one of the recommendations that I can provide to students now is to work on choosing a major now. While you're still in high school, you certainly have resources available that can help narrow your options for college. There are certain assessment inventories that can be completed that will point students in certain directions for academic programs that may be good matches or career paths that can be a good option. So, certainly take advantage of the resources that you presently have within your high schools and really try to narrow down what you're going to major in. We'll talk about the importance of choosing the right classes and not just taking classes to take classes. I think too often there's that perception that students at the community college will just take the general education courses. And while that is correct, we refer to it as the core requirement. Um, the core will differ from various, even public schools. So just because you've taken a core academic class to fulfill the requirement at Tarrant County College or at North Central Texas College, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the same class that's required to fulfill that requirement at UNT or UTA or private schools. Um, One of the other things that's really important on why you should choose a major is to consider prerequisite and sequencing requirements. Based upon the degree program that you choose, the math course that you have to take is going to be different. The science courses may be different. So, if you begin the community college process with a specific major in mind, you can make sure the courses that you're taking are most appropriate for when you are going to then transfer to a four-year school. Also, prerequisites. What courses are required to get into the classes that you need to take for community college? One of the things that all students have to take before they register for courses at a two-year or four-year school in Texas, public at least, is the Texas Success Initiative. It is a test that's not used to allow you into a program, but it is used to determine your placement level in college writing, college math, and college reading courses. There's not necessarily a pass fail score, but based upon the scores students earn on that TSI test, um, that will determine whether they have to take a developmental or a remedial course. It's not uncommon for students coming from high school, even at the four-year school, to have to take a remedial math course. Um, so one of the things students can do in preparation for community college is to prepare for that TSI test. Um, there are exemptions available. You can find the listing of TSI exemptions easily. Simply Google TSI exemptions, and you should be able to find the list at any Texas university indicating what test scores can exempt you from those TSI requirements. Um, Sometimes it's called the Compass test, sometimes it's called Accuplacer. Um, but Exemptions can be used for SAT, ACT scores, or STAR scores if you have those. So be ready for that TSI test, because if a student has to take a developmental course or two or three, those courses do not transfer at when it's time to go to the 4 year school. They are simply necessary to allow you into the courses that will transfer. So hopefully, once you kind of determine what degree program you're considering and focusing on, making that plan. I think it is always important that students ask themselves, what is their purpose? Why are they attending the community college? Commonly it's to save money, and certainly beginning at a community college for a year is considerably less expensive than taking classes at a 4 year school. Um, so certainly makes sense if that's your interest. Um, Sometimes students are still kind of undecided on that major. So taking some of those basic classes allows students to explore certain areas and perhaps get a better idea on what degree program is going to be a best match, or what career path might be a best match. Um, some students are just looking to gain skills and gain the necessary certificates or licensures in order to find employment. If so, there are some great programs available at the community college for that. And then often there's the reason simply because mom and dad said so. And certainly cost can be a big reason for that. But family considerations can impact college choice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what we have to deal with. So, but I think it is important that we really kind of focus on why students are attending the community college. Once you've kind of got that reason why, well, find out which program is going to be the best match. Now, if you're intending on moving into a 4 year college or university, you would probably want to focus on an Associates of Arts or Associates of Sciences degrees. In many instances, those are going to be kind of the best paths to then move in to an associate, to a Bachelor's of Arts or a Bachelor's of Science degree. But there are also degree programs offered at community colleges called Associates of Applied Arts and Sciences. Now, these are 2 year programs which may not necessarily be built to transfer into a 4 year school. And I always encourage students to be careful about this, because if your plan is to go to a 4 year school, you could be enrolling in business classes at a community college that are not intended to transfer into a 4 year business program. So if you want to get a BBA, then you're probably still going to want to get an Associates of Arts. That's not to say those applied arts and science degrees aren't good degrees. There are phenomenal programs in computer technology offered through 2 year schools where students can get certifications and licensures that will allow for a pretty decent living pretty quickly. But if you're looking at a degree program, be aware that these applied arts and sciences degrees can be problematic if you're then transferring into a 4 year school. Also, there are certificates available. So if a student simply wants a 1 year program to find some employable skills, the community college may be able to offer that. But again, if you're enrolled in one of these programs, the likelihood of these courses applying at most traditional 4 year degree programs, it simply won't happen. And then if you have kind of decided what major that you are considering, definitely determining the institution, if you do plan on going to a 4 year school, determining the institution that is going to be the right path for you. Uh, the earlier you do it, the better. So certainly, uh, public and private schools in Texas, public schools in Texas, we have something called the Texas Common Course Numbering System. And that basically means that the English class at TCC is the same number as the English class at NCTC. The course numbers are the same because that makes it easier for the four-year schools to understand what the classes are, regardless of what community college you attended in Texas. Private schools will often use this information too and will be able to provide assistance. But one of the rules in Texas, if you finish the core requirement, which I mentioned earlier, which is a 42-hour core of those English, history, math, and science classes. You took them once in high school. If you didn't get dual credit or AP credit, you have to take them again in college. But if you finish the core requirement at one school and you apply at a new school, that new school is obliged to accept the core requirement completed. So there is some benefit to being core complete before you transfer, but we'll talk about why that's not always the case. One of the reasons why having a target institution following transfer is important is because if you've decided that what degree you're going into and what school you're attending, there are transfer guides that are available that can help you pinpoint what classes are most appropriate to transfer into an institution. Just for an example, I've got a little posting of what a transfer guide looks like from North Texas. And I went ahead and pulled the College of Business just as an example. But with the transfer guides that UNT offers, and many other schools will offer similar resources, it shows what classes a student might take at North Texas during the freshman year and the fall semester, and what the equivalent course is at the community college. So this is just a brief snapshot of what it looks like. I do have a QR code on the side that will take you to a listing of all of UNT's transfer guides for all degree programs. But looking through this resource can kind of give you an idea of what classes are needed. Now, one thing I do want to mention, sequencing, which we mentioned previously, is the order in which you have to take courses to graduate. The College of Business is a good example of a degree program that, as long as students are careful, it's easy to do your first 2 years at a community college and then transfer in to complete the last 2 years and finish in time. But other degree programs, due to sequencing, may really require earlier entry for timely graduation. And while community college is certainly less expensive than the four-year school, if a student is still not able to graduate in 4 years, well, there's going to be an additional cost for that fifth year, not only in tuition paid, but in the amount of money that you're not earning in your career. So I always encourage students to be aware of the sequencing, because if you're a music student, our music degree program is 4 years. So even if you complete 2 years at the community college, a music student is still going to be at North Texas for 4 years to graduate. Art is somewhat similar. A lot of our studio art programs also prepare students for our studio art degrees. So there can be some reason why students will be required to or greatly benefit from coming to a four-year school before. But every degree program is different. And if you know what path is right, the 2-year school and the 4-year school will work together to make sure that we are able to help students graduate in that 4-year time frame, which is most important. Some of the recommendations that I encourage students to do while they're enrolled in the community college is it's imperative that you develop your time management skills. If you don't have a calendar, electronic or paper, where you keep track of what's due, it's imperative in college that you do so. College is drastically different than high school. You're in class 1/3 of the amount of time. A full-time college student is only in class for 15 hours. But for every 1 hour in class, students are likely expected to spend about 2 to 3 hours in preparation, reading, and study of that course. So even though you're not in class nearly as much, you have much more study time that you need to devote to being an AB student. But at the same time, there's always activities that are going to pull you away from your schedule. So being sure you have that ability to manage your time effectively is a paramount skill to develop in order to be successful in college. Stress management. College is a different ballgame. College courses are more difficult. Stress is a part of that. Finances can be a part of that. Relationship issues can be a part of that. So definitely at the community college, being able to hone those stress management skills that you have can certainly benefit you when you move to the four-year school. Um, it's important that students work with academic support services. So, like we said, academically speaking, college is going to be more difficult. Um, when you pay your tuition, you're paying fees that are going to be provided to help cover certain services that are directed to students. They can be anything from tutoring services. If you're having difficulty in a math class, is there a place you can go to get help? So it's important that you receive help when you need help. Um, if you're dealing with academics issues, the tutoring areas are certainly going to be benefit. But if you're needing more help in transitioning to college, often offices will offer success counseling and kind of helping students bridge that gap into the community college. So certainly determine what resources are available and take advantage as you're already paying for them. This is probably the most boring part of the presentation. Learn to review and understand the catalog. The catalog is, in essence, the constitution that universities use that outlines everything from the student code of conduct to what a degree program looks like to the actual classes and descriptions of those classes that students will take at that school. Now, in the past, we had paper catalogs, but they have all moved online. But students can receive a remarkable amount of information about their institution, about the processes obliged by their institution, and about expectations for graduation if using that catalog. And it's a skill that will suit students well when they then move on to four-year schools. Really boring reading, I guarantee it'll put you to sleep, but having an understanding of it is imperative for success. And then mentioned this before, self-advocacy. Being willing to ask for help is imperative in college. There are tons of services that are available, but many times you have to let someone know that you're having difficulty. There are academic advisors, there are student affairs advisors, and the professors are all available to direct students if they know students need help. But being able and willing to speak for yourself is imperative. Get involved. I know a lot of times students aren't necessarily excited about starting at the community college. So I think it is important that students really do try and connect themselves to the institution, to the community college, even if they're only going to be there for 1 year or one semester. Because if you don't develop those those networks of students that you might be able to take classes with, getting involved in student organizations. Um, Community college simply becomes the classroom and nothing more. And I really do think that getting involved, even though students at a community college aren't going to have the same first year experience as a student at a 4-year institution, um, take it upon yourselves to take advantage of all the opportunities that are availed themselves. Get involved in student organizations and academic organizations, get to know your professors, make a commitment to use the community college more than just taking a few classes. A few final thoughts. This is your college experience. You need to take ownership of it, not just in the quality of your academics, but also in taking the right classes. While there are advisors at the community college, that transition from high school to college is you're no longer being told what to do, you're being told what you could do. So taking ownership and being responsible academically, getting to understand the financial impact of your college attendance, I think is important. While community college is less expensive, still understanding the fees that you're paying, the services that you get in return for them, will certainly provide you with a better experience, and it'll be good preparation when you move on to the 4-year school. With regards to that 4-year school, even if you're not eligible to attend a 4-year school based upon your high school work or you were denied admissions, once a student begins to develop a college record, that high school record becomes irrelevant. Once a student, at least at my university, once a student has 30 hours of credit, we don't care about high school GPA. We don't even request the transcript. We don't care about test scores. All we are going to look at is the student's transfer transcript. And if they have more than 30 college hours earned, not only can they be admitted based upon a GPA or a 2.5 GPA, 2.25 GPA. For students that have 30 hours and a 3.0, we have scholarships available up to $4,000 per year. So even if you're not eligible as a freshman, if you prove yourself at the community college based upon your academic performance, there is certainly money available. Take classes that matter. Now, they don't always have to be with respect to the degree program that you're going towards. In many instances, taking an exploratory course in a field that you're not familiar with, but you want to learn more about, can be extremely beneficial. But you're taking that class for a reason. Taking classes that fulfill degree requirements are, of course, you're taking those courses for a reason. So always be sure that the time and the monetary investment that you're making when you register for a class, that information, that's being included in that matter consideration. And as I said before, again, ask for help. Getting into college is easy. Staying in college is hard. So there are numerous resources. Again, we don't want students to flunk out at the 4-year school or at the 2-year school. And if we know students are struggling, we can provide enormous resources to help them overcome those transition issues. But again, it's not our responsibility to make a student succeed. We want them to, and we'll help them as much as we can, but college is the beginning of adulthood, and it's important that you learn to swim. So finally, if you do have any help, if you do have questions about the transfer guide specific to UNT, I'd be happy to work with students. My email address is peacock@unt.edu. So if you would like to explore more about North Texas being a possible ending point, let me know. I'd love to help. but we appreciate your attention. We hope that some of this information has kind of helped as you prepare to begin your journey at the community college. And again, let us know if we can be of any help to help complete that journey. Thanks so much for your attention. Have a great day. Go Mean Green.